Or let me ask you, I guess, you may have read it probably. It's the ISBA and the IEA letter that came out April 10th to school district.
I believe I've seen it. It's probably been a while since I
Okay.
read it, so.
Okay,
yeah,
sure.
if you want to read it again.
Are we? Okay, great. Just starting again today, Shannon Forrester here, representing elementary teachers. Cheryl Hughley High School.
High School.
Alicia McConkey, trustee.
Kristen Beck, interim superintendent.
Cheryl Sanderson, the business manager.
Okay. I'd like to start first with reading the ISBA and the IEA letter that was written on April 10th and was sent out to districts. And the subject is COVID-19, financial impact and employee district relations. Dear school districts and local education associations, we write to provide additional clarification and advisement regarding the effects of COVID-19, including financial impacts and our collective need to implement best practices, communication, collaboration, and partnership during these times. Our students, parents, and communities, which we are all a part, are experiencing daily uncertainty regarding things just a few weeks ago, which were rarely a thought. The impacts and challenges presented by COVID-19 are broad and deeply felt. Despite these unprecedented levels of uncertainty, you, educators, administrators, and school boards have been unsurprisingly steady. In fact, COVID-19 in many respects has just amplified many challenges we collectively addressed pre-pandemic. The dual impacts of a community contagion and economic recession require our best leadership for our students and schools. The financial impact of the current economic recession, like the duration of COVID-19, is unclear. However, we do know that federal stimulus, the state emergency fund, and non-earmarked local reserves cumulatively offer some hope to a degree of opportunity to maintain education services for our students. Both of our organizations are intimately involved with the developments at both the state and federal level with regard to legislation and financial impact and support. Not knowing exactly what the effects will be presents an immediate challenge for our local negotiations. Typically in springtime, the local education association and the school district, begin the process of negotiations to come to agreement on such things as working conditions, salary and benefits, and other important items. This year is no different. However, at this time, the actual level of funding each school district will receive is not determined. There are many moving parts in this equation, including federal stimulus money, as well as state and local reserve funds. The financial landscape is ever-changing for the time being. As such, it is our organization's joint recommendation that negotiations regarding any matter that has a financial impact to the district and/or local education association should be temporarily delayed until a better understanding of the financial picture of state and federal dollars is known. Doing this will ensure that all parties have a clear picture of genuine funding figures and are operating on the same facts, which reduce confusion and conflict and further our goal for collaboration and partnership at the local level. If your local negotiated agreement addresses matters that do not have a financial impact and such matters are ripe for negotiations this year, there is no reason to delay these topics in negotiations, if that is the choice of the local education association and the board. The Idaho School Boards Association and the Idaho Education Association continue to work hard to ensure that the voice of public education is heard throughout all discussions regarding these issues. It is this collaborative relationship between the two organizations that has benefited many communities throughout the state. We hope you share in our belief that collaboration and partnership during this time is critical. Please feel free to contact us with any questions or concerns. Likewise, our two organizations will reach out in the future once more information is forthcoming. And then there was one other letter, and this is an open letter to Idaho school districts from concerned educators. And it is signed by, at the time, our local president, Stephanie Foley. And this went out to all districts, signed by local association presidents. On behalf of our students and educators in our districts, we call on district officials to approve budgets that will ensure stable, supportive, safe, and healthy schools for our students. In the wake of the COVID-19 public health crisis, Idaho students have experienced great turmoil and uncertainty. Our public schools should be a place of healing for students and communities as we work through the COVID-19 crisis. We need to provide students with as much of a stable learning environment as possible with multi-layered emotional supports. Today's students were experiencing high levels of anxiety and difficulty with mental health issues like depression, suicide, and disruptive behaviors before this natural disaster. It would be irresponsible to further compromise mental health issues by eliminating staff from schools and exacerbating already woeful student-to-counselor ratios. In many cases, our students' lives depend on it. Some districts in Idaho are considering budget cuts that would destabilize school environments and at worst, deny students access to vital services they now, more than ever, will depend on when schools reopen. Now is not the time to hit the panic button and start slashing education budgets. When the school year resumes this fall, in whatever form it may take, students must have access to the fundamental resources to guarantee their health and safety. This includes the custodial services to maintain sanitary conditions, nurses to ensure our students' health is being monitored, kitchen staff to feed our students, and counselors on hand to step in before a crisis manifests, not after. All jobs are essential. Idaho has financial resources. Idaho districts have access to CARES Act, federal emergency relief funds, state emergency funds, and in the case of many rural districts, funding through the Secure Rural Schools Act. This is on top of the increases voted in by the legislature earlier this year. Most districts also have made prudent decisions that allow them to build sufficient rainy day reserve funds. If a global pandemic doesn't qualify as a rainy day, we don't know what does. These funds should be used prior to any cuts to personnel and the services they provide. Idaho ranks near the last in funding public education, but not because our state does not have resources. This crisis highlights our students' needs and our collective calling to work together to invest in the schools our students deserve. We ask school districts to lead, do right by Idaho children, and approve budgets that provide stable and equitable services and support for our students. And then also on the behalf of the Middleton Education Association negotiators and myself, we want to just reiterate, we are bargaining in good faith. We are 3 honest teachers. We have no hidden agendas. We are transparent. We just want what is best for students and what is best for teachers to educate their students. And if we want to start, we proposed some progressive discipline language. And I have copies. Would you like copies?
Yeah.
Okay. Here we go. Okay, pass this.
Shannon, where was this gonna be added?
It
Because this is different than a grievance
is,
process.
absolutely. two different concepts. So if we stuck this, after 5, which is the grievance procedure, or before or after? So we could make it number 5 or number, excuse me, 6. So that is the grievance procedure starts on page 23.
Did you get that email? What do we have? We don't have policy.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just trying to jump back to some emails. I know Sharon has started digging
Okay.
into this a little bit, so.
Sure.
So at first glance, that last sentence in the ending paragraph there, items may be removed from the file by mutual consent of the employee and the superintendent or designee. That sentence is problematic for us. In our opinion, that doesn't align with what Idaho code says about removal of items, and I can grab that code if that would be helpful. I think it's 331210.
And this language came from NAMPA. I took it identically out.
I think that the other question that I would have, kind of from an HR standpoint, is, is it your intent or expectation that all employee discipline would follow these steps? I mean, how would you account for varying degrees of infractions, I guess?
When we talked about it just briefly forever ago, the idea wasn't to remove anything substantial. It was something that happened and there's a period of time that elapsed and it doesn't happen again, not wanting somebody to be penalized for one mistake, one incident. So I would see that would be the same across the board.
Right. Right, and just as an example, we were using as if an employee comes to work late continually. And the administration gives an oral warning. We know what that would do with 99.9% of the staff. They would never be late again, just by, because of this language. They would know what would come next. And so we feel like it would actually help administrators with problematic behaviors that occur by giving them and by the employees knowing what the steps are and what comes next. And so this actually is for administration as well as for employees. And just like we do with our students have a list of discipline procedures. This is the same thing, we're just wanting the same thing we give for students for employees. So, I mean, it's just like a teacher in a classroom, you know, if one is a verbal warning, I mean, just teaching fourth grade for 7 years, you know, there's your verbal warning, and then the next time it happens, you need to go write your name down, you know. The next step, you're gonna only recess. The next step, you're gonna have to talk to the principal. The next step, I'm gonna have to call home. So, I mean, it's just the same guidelines, and it actually helps protect the district. If you have somebody who is wrongfully thinking they're terminated, if you're following these steps, there shouldn't be any cases where there's disagreement on the part of an employee and the district. And at the top, except in cases warranting immediate discharge, I mean, if an employee, heaven forbid, ever harmed a child, I mean, that's not gonna be an oral warning. So, this is just, we feel like many surface level behaviors, can be, corrected by an oral warning.
And I would agree with that. I think my question is more the severity of varying issues. If there comes a disagreement as to where those issues should fall, are they step 1, are they 2, are they 3? Who is that up to? How do you guys see that working? So take something in the middle, right? Not something that's really severe, but also not showing up late for work. So not something you'd be terminated for. But a significant performance issue. Where would you see that falling in the steps?
Are you thinking something like maybe not keeping up with grade books or responding to parents or something? That
Yeah,
feels
so,
like
yeah.
extreme, right?
I would follow the steps. I mean, because it comes down to, even, you know, probation, you know, you would end up on probation if you don't improve with your plan of improvement on step 4. You have the opportunity to improve your performance. And if you choose not to, for whatsoever reason, you would be subject to probation.
Isn't there a policy though, the RDS, so there's a policy referenced here for probation, but isn't there a policy for discipline already in place?
We were just working on that section yesterday. I can search for one.
Right?
Well, the recommendation, the information that we got from Karen, she's the president of the Idaho School Board Association, she sent out an email a long time ago. Well, I think the date, not a long time ago, within the last 2 months, 6 weeks. She says, she cautioned us as board members, she said, the policy, she says, we recommend that you never include board policy in the master agreement. The policy should be separate from the master agreement because it keeps it cleaner on the district side as far as flexibility if it needs changed. If there are instances that happen like, okay, we need to amend that. It's a lot easier for us to go in and change a policy within the next month, 3 readings than once a year with the master agreement. Does that make sense?
Right.
Like trial and error. So that's kind of the, I guess I would feel better having it in policy because I feel like that gives the HR people the ability to take in considerations those different steps. And I guess my question is, if it's in the master agreement, then who's ultimately responsible for, like Kristen said, deciding where it starts or who starts that? I feel like if it's in policy, that puts the burden on the district, right? Because it's then their job to oversee it. If it's in the master agreement, a lot of this stuff, like the leave and stuff like that, you guys handle. And so that's where I'm having a hard time if we add this, does that mean you guys are in charge of this? Or if we leave it in policy, that means that the district's in charge of it? Does that make sense?
Right. If it's in here, if it's in the negotiated agreement, then we would, I think whether it's in policy or in the negotiated agreement, it's just, this is an agreement with the school board, with the district. So it's just making sure that it's followed. So, are you saying that you would want it in policy rather than the negotiated agreement is what you're saying?
I would rather personally, from my understanding of what the information I've been getting from the School Board Association would be that we should write a policy that is contained in the policies, because if it needs changed or altered, and it puts more of the burden on the district, right, the HR to follow these policies, because that's their job, is to implement the procedures and policies of the district, rather than put it in the master agreement. And my suggestion would be, let's try it in policy first and see, let's work on getting the policy written, see if we've got one already, go that route and see how it goes. And if we're still not happy with it, maybe revisit it next year if it's not working out as a policy.
Okay, the only, question I have on that is when you write policy, I know that there's in the, preamble, it talks about having the MEA, in the policymaking part. And we just wanna make sure that, when we put something in the negotiated agreement, it's something we both mutually agree upon. And we would wanna make sure that that policy is something that we mutually agree upon.
And that was my understanding, that there's a policy committee.
So we're currently working on the 5,000 section, which is personnel, and we have both Katie and Dave sitting on that committee. It's a committee of 11. So they were both in attendance with us yesterday.
Okay.
Sitting at this table, I totally hear and understand what you're saying. As a teacher, this is so user-friendly and it's right there. Because things will come out. I got an email probably 2 weeks ago, somebody said, can you tell me where this is in policy? Oh my gosh, I need 3 people to help me find it. You guys have probably gotten those emails too.
We feel the same.
Yeah, so it just seems like something that's so important. I would like to just see it in a place it's so clear, it's easy for people to see, whatever that wording might be or the process. I just know that policy is not always user-friendly for teachers.
And I think, and I agree, like I totally get that, because we're having the same problem, especially because ours are so outdated and not up to where they need to be. But I would think if we could do the policy section first and then reference it directly here so that it's easy to find, but they're the exact same thing. Does that make sense? But I feel like the work on the policy end, because that really is, as far as the school board members concerned, that's our job. We're supposed to do policy. That's what we should have been doing for the last year, and it hasn't been getting done. So I feel like we have a good team in place. They've got the members that need to be there to really discuss it and work it. Let's have those discussions, start it in policy and bring it back to negotiations next year. And then put it, if it still needs to be discussed or we're not happy with how it ended on the policy side, revisit it then. To give both sides time. Kristen's new, she's just jumping into this. Give this new team time to kind of look at it and massage it a little bit and before we just go ahead and put it in there.
Like, just your explanation of trying to get caught up, things, that makes sense, and I think a compromise is fairly valid, trying to get.
Yeah. And it's not that I don't agree that there needs to be a discipline procedure, because I think this is a great starting point to send to the committee when they look at that policy and say, this is what was brought to negotiations, it's a great starting point, let's build on it. Are there other discussions? Are there HR things we need to take into consideration that maybe need to be added or clarified?
Right.
Put it before legal teams, make sure that we're, in compliance with all we need to be there, and then move forward from that point.
Okay. Yeah, and I do know that West Data, they do practice this, this discipline procedure. It's just common practice at West Beta. And it just really helps both administration and employees have a firm idea of what happens next. And we all, like our students need that, we need that just as much as our students do. What happens next if you have behavior that needs to be changed? So,
And I think these are great steps to have outlined. That was more my question, is
Okay.
just, depending on the severity of issues. So
okay,
if it could even say something like, instead of shall ordinarily, maybe it's where appropriate, or language such as that. I did just find Idaho Code. Do you guys want me to read that real quick?
on the letter,
In regards to just that last
Sure.
sentence. So, this is 33-12-10 subsection 9. Beginning September 1st, 2011, the board or an official of a school district shall not enter into any resignation agreement, severance agreement, or any other contract or agreement that has the effect of suppressing information about negative job performance by a present or former employee, or of expunging information about that performance or unethical conduct from any documents in the previous employer's personnel, investigative, or other files relating to job performance by the applicant.
okay,
So that's where just that last line concerns me.
okay. And so so the district does not allow anybody right now to get letters out of their file, correct?
Correct, unless there was truly an accident, something was misfiled, it should have gone in last name Miller, but we got the first name wrong and it went into the wrong file. If there was a place that both the administrator and the employee agreed that it was truly a mistake for something to go into a file, we would absolutely look at that, if that wasn't the intent or the purpose.
Okay.
We would definitely consider those things, but no, it's not our practice to remove items.
Okay. There's an incident that when Mr. Horning was here, he had mentioned that something could have been removed out of a file after a year. And so so that's conflicting with what our past practice was. So that's why,
Confusing, yeah, absolutely.
So is that something we need to outline in disciplinary procedures, or needs to be written somewhere so that everyone can refer to it the same way? I don't know if it's a practice or a policy that needs just clarification
I haven't
from
seen
this
it
point moving forward.
written anywhere, have you seen it?
we do have a policy on, and I don't have the number on the top of my head, but there is a policy, and it does talk about personnel file, your personnel file. But it doesn't state in there specifically, removal of documents.
Is that something we should probably look?
5011 is the personal file.
Thank you.
Is that one we should probably have?
Could you say that again?
5011.
So just for clarification on the disciplinary procedure, so let's say a teacher got the oral warning, they weren't keeping up with grading, responding to emails, things like that, it didn't get fixed. So we proceeded through a couple steps, there was a plan of improvement, and they actually improved. There's no way that they could get that letter removed from their file if they really follow through with the process, and that's kind of an incentive, like, we're here to help you, and
If that letter went into their personnel file, no, it wouldn't be appropriate to remove it. But things don't always have to go into a personnel file, right? That's, again, that severity piece.
So just because they're on the plan of improvement doesn't mean it goes into their personnel file.
If they're on a formal plan of improvement, it does go in their personnel file.
If they improve, like Cheryl was saying, does that mean an additional letter can go in, or additional document that says this employee has exemplified or met all the criteria in his plan of improvement, continues to progress, is now off their plan of improvement?
And additionally, the employee could always submit something to go with that plan of improvement to address that.
Right, and we have a rebuttal, Cheryl what's there's a time frame on there, is it 5 days, 15 days?
Yeah, it says employee will have the opportunity to attach a rebuttal to any information placed in an employee's personnel file, which has been reviewed with the employee within 5 days of the review date.
Because that was my other question on this too, was how much time lapses between each step, or who determines, is it, I give you an oral warning one day, and then the next day you get a written warning, and then the next day, is it a week, is it 5 days, is it like the progression, I wasn't sure what that looks like.
Continue to fail to do it. Let's go back to becoming late, get an oral reading, become late again, then it's a formal written one.
So that can happen within a day.
Yeah.
Within a day.
So that too, I think somehow we need to address, like, it depends on what the instance is, right, like if that happens, so it's maybe some clarification on that is what that looks like.
I think we might have some contradictory policy too, because I could have sworn I read 7 days somewhere. It might be in the evaluation policy for rebuttal, so all things we're working between that. right
And
now.
so the teacher might not be able to do that in 7 days, but if they genuinely help to improve something, it might take a year. And then they would have evidence that they had made that progress. They wouldn't be able to do that in 7 days.
So, I mean, as long as, you know, we have Dave and Katie on the committee and they can help with the policy, and then, like,
Revisit it next year
Yeah.
if you're not happy with it,
Sure.
or there's still issues. I feel like that just gives the district time to get our feet underneath us and kind of work through this. If there's policy that's contradicting, I don't wanna add something to the master agreement that's gonna make it even harder to go back and then fix. Where, like I said, policy, we can, in a couple board meetings, a couple months do it, this is kind of once a year. So I feel like, let's get it right there and then revisit it.
So would there be something in the contract that told teachers exactly where that was in the policy?
Yeah, so once we get the policy quote, just like you record, here's school district policy 5045, and then you can just go and how state statutes are referred to here, just reference it, so it's easy to find, but it's the same information, it's not contradicted, everyone can interpret it the same way, just to try and keep it as easy and clean as possible for everybody. But I do agree, it needs to be easy to find and easy to reference for everyone's sake.
yeah,
I know it's all online, but I remember now it's online, but as a new teacher in the library, there's.
The 3-inch binder.
Oh my gosh, you looked at it and you're like,
agree, I think it was like.
That was only like 4 years ago, 4 years ago, it wasn't that long ago, and Simply, I don't know how much time you spent on Simply, but that does make a lot easier, with search tools are uploaded, you can type in a keyword, it'll bring up anytime it was said in the board meeting minutes, and if you can search other district policies that use Simply, it will pull up their policies that they have uploaded, so you can compare, yes, we should get together and talk
Yeah.
Simply, because it will,
If I just go through policy,
Yeah, I know.
policy.
this.
You can search, it's awesome.
And like I said, other districts that use it, so you can pull up theirs, any board meeting or any special meeting that word or phrase was referenced, you can see if there's any action items taken in first readings, you know, so you can kind of see, it makes it much easier to go through the policies that way. So as we get them updated, it'll be even better, because then we know that they've been updated, and then we'll have record of all that and make sure that they're where they need to be. So are we okay with that?
I compose, we all agreed to compromise, start with policy, revisit next year, and there will be a notation in the contract that defines it.
The policy could be noted.
Okay, and then in the agreement, last year we had blackout days. And where are those blackout days?
It's on page 16.
Is there a need for those anymore?
That's what I was, right.
I don't think so. So the intent with the current calendar is to have that PD listen taking place on those Friday contracted teacher days. So I don't see a need for that.
So can we just
Remove that whole section,
Yeah.
that number 4.
And then when we started in April, we had a discussion about the prep time. And we actually put in there Monday through Friday, and then we went to a 4-day school week. And that's not a full week now for us, Monday through Friday. So that is on page 26, work day length. And the actual length of the day needs to be changed.
Do you know what those numbers are? Yes, Lisa, this is-
Yes, I had sent you the school day
Yes,
hours.
thank you for that, and for administrators for
Yeah,
applying.
and then, the discussion around, what teacher contract day length could be. I think we're looking at 8 and, I think 8 3/4.
I'm afraid to
I could be
guess.
wrong though. And we knew that was, still up
Right.
for discussion, but that was,
Well, we can wait on it if you,
I believe
Still
Cheryl
need to
has
do
it.
it.
Basically,
Yeah,
as it was
one
an hour, 8 hours.
So for sure though, we need to change that based on a 5-day work week, we can change that to 4.
yeah,
So we had that, 8 3/4 on the
Right, so
teacher
from,
day.
Weeks that we have preparation for the project. How do you deal with that?
Well, but it's counted into the total days
It
of
would
the
be that
year.
same length.
So instead of 187, it's really around 162.
And that's, I think that might be off because
Is
of
it off?
MLK now. I
Yeah.
have my notes here. So what I have counted, and I would feel better if you guys double checked this, but 143 student days. This is on the calendar that was approved last night. So we got rid of that MLK day. So it was 144. 12 teacher contract days. One more day on that October 23rd, Friday for the parent teacher conference makeup, and then 6 paid holidays. And so that gives me a total of 162.
We looked at it after that. So page 26 and page 27 in the contract still have the 7-hour, 45-minute workday.
So does that, this 8 3/4 hours, does the duty-free minutes and the arrival 15 minutes before classes, does all that stay the same? As well?
I believe when we talked about that, that was a couple weeks ago, I believe we were still shooting for arrival time being 15 minutes.
Before, because even looking at each building on student hours, it's still counted for at least 15 minutes before. Wording of this is, but
So have the minutes for the days been figured out then for each building?
The minutes for the instructional calendars have been figured out for student time.
So like, does each building though know what their new start time and end time will be? Have we set that up?
So we've talked about it, we visited with Caldwell Transportation last week and wanted to run those times by then and just make sure that that was all going to come together like we thought it would. So I wouldn't say we've formalized those times, but principals are aware of what we're thinking and they've started trying to design master schedules with those times in mind.
So do we want to wait then, because it's not confirmed?
I think that might be better,
Okay.
until we have confirmation
Okay.
on that. Did you guys have something in mind though, as far as what you would propose for a workday length?
Well, since we will be ending now at the high school 3:45,
And they are the latest.
right? And we were having 30 minutes at the end of each day. If we ended it, so teachers could leave at 4, that would be 15 minutes.
Is 15 minutes enough time for them to get,
Everything done.
like if they have to do less of a year, if they have to do like, is that a reasonable expectation? I don't know what it looks like at the high school after
Right.
school is out, like how many kids
Well-
hang around or what kind of things they need to finish.
I'll guarantee you this, teachers will be there till 5. Because they're there now. So, or later, actually, so, I just know with having kids at home and having to get home and make dinner and coaches will be starting at 4 then, coaching athletics or,
I know that was a concern when we looked at this school day, and I believe, yeah, we had activities starting at the high school at 4.
When the idea of the 4-day week even came out, I had several teachers email or text and one of them expressed concern that even though they were thinking it was probably gonna be a Friday off, but that it didn't necessarily work for, you're talking about things you have to do in the evening time. So she noted that the dentist isn't open on Friday, so there needs to be time for teachers to still be able to do the things they need for their families in the afternoon. Those other days aren't going to work for them. And then they'll come back till whenever.
Right.
I think it's been a couple weeks since we looked at the math, but if I remember correctly, we were trying to compare overall work hours from this year to proposed for next year. I think at the 8 3/4 day, there was about a 7-day difference in hours. Is that what you remember? It's been a while.
I just did the math on it's only 4 hours.
Oh, so, okay, so that was way up.
By 3, how many days is that?
So,
By 7, it's 3 days. Well, because we had 186, right?
oh, maybe that was the change. So just to give you an idea, that's kind of one of the ways we were trying to.
Because now you're getting 6 paid holidays instead of 5. So if I pull the holidays out, then it's even more. That's what makes up the 4th day. It's about 3 days additional, less hours than you were working before.
right, and
And that's just on paid hours, where
Right.
actual student hours contract, pull out the holidays, so 162, that's 6. So, so really 156, where you were, so 186, 187,
7, I think.
87.
187. Versus 92. So you were at 1, and if you take 187, so that's what's more than that, times 7 and 3/4 hours, you were at 1,449 a quarter. 1,449.25 hours. Are now at 162 times 8 3/4, you're at 1,417.5. 31.75 hours less that you're required to work for the same pay.
Right, well,
And part of that's because we do it anyway.
right, well, and we know, we already have teachers on Friday at the school. That's just the way it is, and that's how we have to, and, you know, teachers like, well, I'll be there on Friday, you know that, and I'm like, yes, I do know that. Just like when I taught part-time, the district really got an awesome deal out of that, because when I was teaching and the other teacher was in, we split, I was there doing, you know, prepping, and so we will be there on Fridays. So, that's something we all know about teachers. But I just wanted to look and see as far as, I wanted to make sure so as far as on our compensation schedule where it talks about, we'll have to, when we get into that as well, we will have to, on page 6, no, actually not on page 6. See where it talks about, I mean, we'll have to talk about daily rate of pay rather than contracted days, correct?
I think that is, I just read it this morning. The top of page 12 talks about, not necessarily daily rate of pay, but how we would pay participation in extra commitments. And right before that, on the bottom of page 11 is the hourly rate on
Oh, for additional time.
Or other compensation.
Did you want to talk about anything through? Also changing the schedule so that during the holidays you weren't going like 7 weeks without, did you ever talk to Lori about
Oh, pay dates.
that?
No, we just, other than what we talked about, just trying to shorten that up. Because we normally pay the last workday before break. So it's gonna make it like 7 weeks in January.
So is that something that would go in here, or is that something that would just be handled by the district?
I think it is in there, isn't it? That we're-
I don't think it is, I think we found out that it was not. It just says it will pay on the 25th, actually. And so it's been a practice to pay early. So, because in here it even says that everybody has to be direct deposit, so really it doesn't matter, you know? And so that's why we were saying, on page 6, shall be divided into 12 equal payments to be distributed on or before the 25th. Must be made by direct deposit. We don't hold everyone to that right now, but the majority of them do. So it does give us the ability, instead of paying on the December calendar, like on the 15th, and then you have to wait until the 25th of January, it was just, we would go ahead and generate it on the business day before the holidays to help bridge that gap, you know, because it's a long time to go between paychecks.
Especially Christmas.
Laura was concerned about that, but it's gonna be long, with this Christmas break, especially with the new calendar. You want to look at that, right?
And I found on the bottom of page 6, right there where it says salaries above are based on 187 days of service, which includes 5 paid holidays. So that language there.
We would probably adjust it to say, you know, 162 days of service, which includes 6 paid holidays. Right?
And how many days of service?
162.
Not the 8 3/4.
And then thinking about that some more, the length of the contract they hopefully we don't actually need to wait on that because we don't have times in there. It's just the length of the
Right.
day.
Right.
So I don't see a need to hold off on that.
Each building may adjust slightly, right?
Right.
Because of the start time.
So page 26.
Rotating.
So that's adding an hour, correct? Because
Yes.
it was
It was 7 3/4.
Mhm.
And then still the 250 duty free minutes a week. Preparation time based on a 4-day work week.
So we have
Mhm.
Did we change the language on that based on Friday?
Yeah, we'll just have to change that to Monday through Thursday. Yeah.
with one Friday per month. Does that need to be added?
So Monday through Thursday.
Well, they're-
and one Friday a month.
250 duty free minutes, do they get that? Is that part of their Friday PD days? Or no?
Sorry, say that again?
So it says, this shall include a minimum of 250 duty free minutes a week for preparation time based on, we're gonna say a 4-day work week, Monday through Thursday. We don't need to say anything about Friday, right? Because those Fridays are professional development days.
Yeah, they're a combination of, I think, we're hoping for some professional development, some teacher work days. Lisa, am I forgetting anything?
Building model.
Yeah,
Staffing
the principals were interested in being able to do some building level PD as well. That wasn't necessarily district directed.
Well, I know, some of the teachers, quite a few were concerned, especially in the elementary level. We used to get time that early out Wednesday, for teacher work time, especially before report cards. I mean, I know we'll have Fridays off, but we're not getting paid during that time. So, I mean, they were just very concerned about making sure we had some time to do teacher, report cards and things like that. So teacher work time built in.
Have the Friday PD days been set already? On the calendar?
We specifically, put Fridays around the end of the trimesters for that reason, Sharon.
So there would be some work time.
Yeah, they're around the trimesters, and then we also try to look around the quarters, but we can place it on all of them. But we intentionally built in work time as close to those rating periods.
Okay. Is it like, you know, how long? Is it like half day? Is it
Minimum half day,
minimum?
minimum half day,
Okay,
shooting for more, minimum would be a half day.
okay. At each trimester.
Yes.
And what about,
At T1 and T2.
okay,
Calendar committee didn't feel the need to have one at T3.
right, oh, okay. And parent-teacher conferences, we still will have in October, right? And those will start on a Wednesday and Thursday.
Yeah, it's October 21st and 22nd.
So on the teacher workday, we're just changing the hours, we're not gonna add one Friday a month.
Why wouldn't we?
Well, that's what I was trying to figure out.
And I'm trying to remember, it didn't equate exactly to one Friday a month, but it was actually less. I think
It's
it
actually
was
less.
7.
Well,
There's a
Seven
double
of
again.
those.
then that would be,
I think
It
there's
is
7.
7 minus those 5 at the start, yeah.
sorry, for the
So
start
we
of
just
I
Monday.
think Monday through Thursday.
And 7 PD, well, I don't know, that would be. Or just leave it off.
Including, well, that time, maybe you need to include that time, the,
Including 7 professional days throughout the year. On Friday.
Yeah, maybe you could just add a new sentence. Additionally, there will be 7 teacher contracted Fridays.
It's more than 7 when we count August and October. So do we need to include that?
Well, on the August days, so, well, October is the Teachtober ones.
So can we just put it all together on that based on a 5-day week? So we changed that to 4. This shall include a minimum of 250 minutes a week for preparation time based on a 4-day work week, Monday through Thursday, and including professional development days. So we don't pin a number or amount of hours, we just say you will also have to do the professional development days.
Yeah, and we can get you a number of that. If you
I like
that
just the-
better.
In case it changes or something, I like, if you guys feel like that
Because we'll have to
satisfies
change
that.
it every year. That is good.
contract.
Professional development days.
We did have, at the beginning of the school year, concerns at the middle school and high school with orientation. Did you want to address that, Blair?
Yeah, teachers, some of the teachers, during that orientation day, all the teachers help out, the 6th grade teachers, and they're assigned to a class. And that gives them one less preparation day. So I don't know if there's a way we could address that.
What did the calendar committee decide on those open house days? Do you remember?
And that concern was brought up, especially at middle school, because of not having that extra or that day of preparation.
I know the calendar committee talked about the placement of those open house days and what it looks, and if it was a half day or full day. Do you remember? I don't remember what. Is it okay? Could speak to me. Is that okay? Are you guys okay with that? Okay.
The 17th, they determined would be that 6th and 9th grade orientation, but they would move K-5 open house to also be on the 17th. So then it's an altered schedule for K-5 now as well, on that
Also,
same day.
across the district.
Yeah, so open house, K-5, 6, 9 orientation, all on the same day.
At the same time?
Not at the same time. It would be a staggered start. So remember on the open house, it's that staggered start, so it would affect both ends. So 6, 9 would be the altered schedule, so it would be a normal day. K-5, it would be the open house schedule.
So, but elementary teachers would still receive more preparation time, right? Before open house.
Based on the building, I don't know if I can speak to what would be going on in the buildings on the 17th. Specifically for each building.
But that, is that designated as, it's not PD, right?
It's not, right now, it's currently designated as the teacher contract day. On the calendar.
Right. And we wanted to make sure elementary had as much time possible before open house to get all their names tagged.
All their decorations, the rugs,
Right, right.
and who knows, maybe masks and like whatever else, like, we don't know.
Plexiglass.
Yeah.
And so that goes to the week prior, the calendar committee discussed that same thing and asked for the 12th and the 13th to be those work days, and then professional development would just be one day on that Friday, the 14th. So there would be 2 full days, the 12th and the 13th, for teachers to have work time there, for classrooms as well. And so then that open house being that following Monday, that work time is slated before that open house time.
Right. So does that give, I just want to make sure it's equitable or,
It seems to be equitable.
So they would have, so that 12th, 13th, 14th is the same for all teachers,
okay,
as far as work time compared to professional development time.
okay.
And then that Monday, yeah, that was all.
Because at the high school, it's only the 9th grade teachers that do orientation? Or have this?
Yeah, we didn't, like you explained, everybody was helping, we didn't do it that way. So I mean, everybody was there, but not everybody had a part in freshman orientation.
Mid school, everybody was helping, just so it was equitable across the building.
So nobody
Yeah.
got extra time, but here,
Our administration really set it up, that the teachers could be in the rooms, they had leadership students helping and taking kids through, different stations. So teachers didn't have a huge
So it
burden.
wasn't, a lot.
okay.
And some teachers were asked to, do you want to present something or show up club or something, but it wasn't, like you have to give up all your work time to do this.
And when that.
I know, change Bolton rules.
She did, yeah, maybe they could utilize that a little bit to help the 6th graders to help with the teachers, yeah. And I know that's hard coming into the new year, but those 8th graders, yeah, they.
We'll see, we'll work it out. Those are good suggestions, though.
And then also the finals week at the high school, the half days, they're no longer half days, correct? They're full days.
I didn't attend that meeting, so yes, please.
Okay, sorry. They're not completely half days. With the calendar committee, what we determined is that Thursday, hold on, I gotta look at my dates, Sharon. The 16th, which would be Wednesday, December 16th, there would be a 1 p.m. release for K-12, so they would have a 1 p.m. release, an early release there, as well as that Thursday is a 1 p.m. release for K-12. So that was a change as well. It used to just be 9/12. This year it will be K-12 gets out at 1 p.m. on that last day before break. So the high school on those final days have 2 days of 1 p.m. releases in December and 2 days of 1 p.m. releases in May. And the rationale behind the calendar committee on that was they felt, the high school representatives felt like that was doable with finals. And it still allowed us enough instructional hours to maintain instructional hours. So the calendar committee was good with that schedule around finals.
Okay.
So spring and fall, high school have 2 days they get released at 1 p.m.
Yes.
And spring and fall, K-12 will have 1 day where they have a 1 p.m.
Correct. Yes.
So elementary will have it in the spring as well.
Yes.
Okay,
The last day of school and then the last day before Christmas break, or 1 p.m. releases for
Okay.
elementary as well.
okay. Last year, we ended up having, so we were supposed to have Friday off. But that never happened. It didn't get built into the calendar because there was just a lot going on and it didn't get communicated. But we still had our 187 days. There were concerns about that we should have had that day off, but we still received our days. So just want to make sure everybody knows that we did get our days. I checked on it.
Are you talking about the Friday at the end of the year?
The Friday before, well, we talked about that during negotiations last year, that, since the high school has had those, half days during the week, that final day, they said, well, would you be happy with having that Friday off before Christmas break? Would that help elementary teachers? And I said, it would help us. We'll take it. And then it never happened. It never got placed on the calendar, after we were done with negotiations. But people were concerned that we worked an extra day, but we did not work an extra day. So,
The calendar committee didn't feel the need to have a workday on that Friday before Christmas break or that Friday at the end of the year. They felt like that 1 PM release on that last day
right,
would suffice.
yeah, sure. And then, it was also brought to our attention as far as PD equity for all schools to have time to complete the safe school trainings. Last year during Techtoberfest, or sorry, is it not Techtoberfest? Sorry, whatever fest.
They change, so you're good. You're behind, it takes a while.
So during, that time, the high school, there was some high school did not receive the opportunity to, because they were in other meetings, to do their safe school trainings. However, I did speak to one of the instructional specialists this year who said it had been taken care of, and I just wanted to clarify.
And we can make sure this year
Okay.
that there's time in that schedule that everybody has access to
Okay,
weekly streams.
okay, great. Just, wanted to make sure that everybody has equity as far as time to complete those trainings. And I don't know if you have time, if it's only gonna be, because it seems like during those safe school trainings, we keep adding more and more trainings, and it takes more and more time. So if we can, make sure that we have PD available, or we can do those trainings during PD time, that was also another concern. So we're not completing it on our own time.
We can look at the training length, and I need to take a look at that anyway and see, everything that we're requiring.
Right.
We can try to make sure that that time is appropriate for being able
It
to.
seemed like when we started these, we had like 1 or 2, and then this year it's like, there's 8. It's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, so that was a concern. And I know in my building, my administrator made sure we had time available that he slotted for us to do that, but I'm not sure if all buildings are doing that.
Are they something that our district requires, or something state requires?
Some of them the state requires, some of them are in statute, just a few of them. Some, the district is requiring, we need to take a look at what all of those are. Some of them that allow us to get lower premiums on some of our insurance. If we're, properly training staff and making sure that we have various protocols in place and
Yeah, and like the bullying, that's in
that one's
statute.
required,
Mhm,
harassment is required.
mhm.
So we're good on that one, it sounds like there's.
Yeah. And then I had put down, class size, caseload, and I know with the funding issue, this next year is gonna be really tight, super tight. But I need to bring this up because it is so important to the learning of our students, class size and caseload. It, has been an issue, for a long time, and it's important to bring it up. If Cheryl, you wanna explain the English teachers and the class size, and it was brought up in negotiation. When was Mike at the high school? I don't know, but, and it was brought into negotiations, and then our district administration say, as you take notes, but then when we change people, it gets lost. And so we have to keep bringing it, and that's another reason why if we have things in policy or in the negotiated agreement, we don't have to continually bring things up when we have a change in administration. So, if you wanna address the English.
And I'm sure teachers from every department can tell you similar stories. I just have the experience with English. So I started teaching English in 1997, and class sizes were like 17, 18, 19. If you had 21, it was like, oh my gosh, where did all these kids come from? And you know what class sizes are now, like there's 30 kids in an English class. What I saw as a teacher, but also realizing what was happening as a parent, is what do you do to get through all that? I used to be able to take home 17 writings from a class and have those all back the next day. And we have 25, 28, 30, 32. You can't do that. So then you cut down on the feedback you're giving students, which is how they're going to learn, or you cut back on how much you're assigning, which is also how they learn through the practice. So it really is not benefiting the students to have those large class sizes, and teachers are making choices that I don't think any of us really want to have to make. And most of it came down to cutting what students were writing. So they're not getting the writing practice, they're writing assignments, some of the exposure that they used to have just to try and keep up with the increase in the class size. So as a teacher, being able to say that that's impossible to keep up with that, and as a parent saying, oh my gosh, these kids aren't getting some of what they really need to be successful no matter where they're going.
And they promised you to keep class sizes low, right?
Yes.
And it was brought to negotiations, and then things get forgotten, people change, and then their class sizes.
It even happened with our honors classes. It used to be for around 20 kids in an honors class because there is more in-depth conversation and extended activities, and we don't even have that anymore. So those kids have lost out on some of the conversations that they used to have, some of the activities, because we haven't even been able to keep the cap in those classes.
And I also say this, and I know Trustee McConkey that you heard this last year, but I have to say it. And it's just dear to my heart because I went from a classroom teacher to a PE teacher. And part of the reason why I left the classroom is when I was teaching 4th grade, I started the year with 36 kids. And every year I had 35, 36, just right in there. And when you're a teacher who has good classroom management skills, you also get students who need good classroom management skills. And so that's just year after year, teachers can only do that so long. And then they're like, you know what? I love kids. I love teaching, but I have to have my mental health and stability myself. And so I got my PE endorsement and now I'm in the gym. But I have to advocate for those teachers and those students, most importantly, because they're the ones that don't get the education they need when you're in a large class and you have on top of that a lot of behaviors. And last year, we put some language in about classroom dynamics. And we chose the word dynamics because we wanted to make sure that, in those heavy loaded classrooms, that you spread out behaviors and, you spread out just the different, dynamics of students so that one teacher is not getting the heavy load year after year after year. And so on page, what page is that we added last year?
That's what I was looking for.
Yeah. Where it's under class size, I know that. Oh, page 27. E, I'll read it. Class size, the board and administration, in recognition of the benefits to be gained from reasonable class size, shall make every reasonable effort to distribute the existing student load equitably among qualified, available, certificated professional teaching employees within each building and keep class size as small as possible. This is what we added last year. It is agreed that within each building, concerted efforts shall be made to maintain equitable class size, classroom dynamics, and subgroup distribution within the teacher schedule and within each department. Last year, at the beginning of the year, we had at Purple Sage a very large first grade classroom, whole class. And they were also very, there were a lot of behaviors in that grade level. And I know, and I know that learning in some of those first grade classrooms was very minimal because of it. And I know, Mr. Hopkins and the first grade teachers met with the district. At that time, there wasn't the funding available to hire another teacher. So they did some problem solving and they ended up getting an aide to help. And we lost students, we lost really good students that went to the charter school, who got homeschooled, and who went to notice. And when you see those good families and those good students leave your district, it's very disheartening. And I just can't advocate enough for starting the problem solving earlier, because we'd already been in school over a month, I believe. And, at that time, parents don't want their child to move classrooms, which I understand, they get used to the teacher, all of that. So I have some language here. I got it from Valley View and Caldwell. I have their language.
I have something on that.
Oh, sure.
Just to add on to that, when teachers are talking about what's happening in their classroom, I never heard teachers say, I want a smaller class or a better distribution of students because I want my job to be easier. The conversation always is about, I can't do what I need to do for students. So it's not teachers whining about something. They really do see a problem and want to be able to do better. And I'm in that unique position where teacher and parent, I know that my son, who's going to be a sophomore now, is getting less exposure to writing than my oldest son who graduated in 2009. I can see that being in school every day and seeing what's coming home and helping them. And that's what teachers see a problem with, not that they're trying to get out of anything. They really know that they're not able to do what they need to do and want to do for students. And especially now as we're talking about more mental health issues and things that are going on with students outside of school, we want to be able to do better for our students.
And in this language, I found some awesome language. Moscow School District, woo. They actually give you a stipend if you have over a classroom load or they're recommended, you get paid, the teacher gets paid extra. That is not included in here because I knew I should not do that. So these are different options besides financial. There's just some language here if you want to pass that. The Valley View, I'll just, read where it says class size. It is the aim and desire of the association, the board, and then the administrators that enrollment in all classrooms in the Valley View School District not exceed the state recommended guidelines for class size. In the event that those guidelines are exceeded, the building principal will initiate a discussion with affected teachers and district office personnel in the problem-solving process no later than the first 2 weeks of school or a new semester/trimester. And actually, they had, I did tweak the words there, they had no later than the first 3 weeks of school. But like I said, the longer students are in a classroom, the harder it is to move them. So I would rather have the first 2 weeks of school. In the event a teacher perceives an overload because of the nature/dynamics, and I added the word dynamics, because that's what the language we have currently, of the class or limitations of the facility, the teacher may initiate the problem-solving process through the building principal. The district will strive to keep class size reasonable. The district will do their best to provide additional staff if necessary, as long as funding and/or space is available. All schools will strive to adhere to the accreditation standards established by the Advanced Ed. For the purpose of this agreement, students on IEPs or identified as having 504 handicapping condition /or LEP will each be counted as 1 1/2 students. Students placed in extended resource, seriously emotionally disturbed, or self-contained programs will count as 2. Valley View Education Association recommended class size for elementary grades kindergarten through 6 are, and then it has their recommendations. We have on policy 2240 is our class size, and I didn't print that off, but that's our class size goals.
Could you just hold that up, Cheryl?
Also, at Purple Sage, we also have the Learning Lab students who are the higher level special education students that we mainstream into the classrooms. And those would be the ones that we would want to count as 2. Or a student that would be tier 3, if you're looking at PBIS, those higher, students that need a higher level of support, would be tier 3 students, we would want to count as 2.
Let's try it.
And then I'm gonna read, shall I read the Caldwell language?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, class size goals. FTE allocation will be based on enrollment projections and state funding. The figures below are goals and are not mandated class minimums. Elementary classroom considerations. The following elementary grade level enrollment goals are as follows. And then they have their classroom sizes. When enrollment exceeds the grade level goals, the classroom will qualify for a temporary overcrowding paraprofessional. In the event the enrollment decreases, the temporary overcrowding paraprofessional will be removed from the classroom. Middle school classroom considerations, and then it has their following 6th grade 32, 7th grade 32, 8th grade 32. Secondary classroom considerations. Safety will be taken into consideration when placing students in classes such as science, physical education, and career technical courses. If enrollment in secondary courses exceeds 35 students, the building administrator, site leadership team, and and superintendent/designee will meet to review the situation and propose possible solutions. 3, specialized programs such as physical education, band, choir, etc. are excluded. And there again, you have administrator, problem solving the situation and proposing possible solutions. I do know, and at the middle school, since they are not replacing a PE health teacher that left, they're absorbing that PE classes, they have 2 at a time, so you're looking at 80 plus students
For 2 teachers.
for 2 teachers, but I'm looking at one time in a gym.
Don't they have 2?
They do have like a cardio room, they can put some kids, and they have a weightlifting room, but,
But they have the 2 gyms, right?
Alternative gym too.
The gyms that's in the building and then the extra gym that's outside.
yes,
An Annex B.
but I don't know if they can,
Do, I don't know.
because I heard
They
that,
do have to fit 2 classes in each gym because of schedule.
yeah,
Oh, they do your 2.
Yeah.
So there's, okay.
that's what I was told by a PE teacher. So and that's more a safety, that would be a safety concern, having that many kids, middle school, yeah.
And I can speak to that
Okay.
a little bit, because I know, the number you just said, the 80 plus, I know they are working on various ways to address that. I think currently 6th grade is required to take PE in that building. And so they have some elective and exploratory options available that have very low enrollment in them. So I know she's having conversations with those counselors to look at, what can be done to address those numbers. What she was aiming for was 35 to 40 without that PE teacher in those classes. So I don't know what all those options are. I haven't sat down and gone through those with her, but I know she's very much looking at them and trying to address that.
Yeah, it's a major concern,
Well, doesn't that address if the administrators or whatever get together in these 2 policies, that's the major thing that we need to do. is
right,
just
I'm problem solving,
Just problem solve
which it sounds like.
and solve the problem that's existing in each situation.
And in a timely manner.
Right, in a timely
In a
manner,
timely
yes.
Yeah, we can't wait till 3 opens down the road, because kids are not gonna change classes. They don't want to.
And with our PE curriculum, which is awesome. We don't just roll out a ball. So we actually have awesome curriculum that we teach students. And when I have parents volunteer and they're like, wow, you actually teach these kids. When I took PE, we just like played dodgeball, every day. I said, no, we have a curriculum and we actually are teaching students how to live healthy lives, how to take care of their body and their minds. And so when you have PE classes with students at this, with this amount, you cannot effectively teach them the curriculum that we have, which is awesome curriculum. And I have to just brag on it because, and Lisa, thank you while you're sitting in here for helping us get that PEP grant, or we wouldn't have it. So we're like up here when it comes to PE in our state.
And that passion that just came out, like, how are we teaching? That's what we wanna do, it really is.
Yeah, that's what we want to do is
Not just manage space.
crowd control,
Yeah.
right? So that is a high concern of ours. So these are 2 different, Caldwell and Valley View, that I got language from that we would hope you would consider.
I think I would definitely like to have more discussion on that, but I'd definitely consider putting something like that in there. Just go through and see what our policy's at and where we're at. Definitely have some more discussion and let you know, we'll get back together. That's okay. But definitely consider it.
Okay.
I still have time.
And Cheryl has to leave at 1.
I need
You have to go.
about a quarter till because I have to get.
I knew that, I didn't know, I thought we were,
Yeah.
I didn't know
I
anything
didn't
about
know
it, but.
But I can hand out some stuff and then let's schedule it next week.
Okay.
I didn't know if you guys listened to the meeting last night.
Oh, yeah.
I thought I was just
But
providing
you know
you
what?
some of the same information.
It is so hard to hear because
Yeah.
when somebody's coughing and you're just like, who is coughing? It's not here. It's really hard to hear when you're having a board meeting. So I tried to listen, not just coughing. So we can let Cheryl update.
Well, mostly I want to hand out the income, the revenue handout you guys got this last night, but just make sure you have the same information.
Okay.
And we're trying to estimate what our revenues will be next year with the state cut and with the supplemental levy out. So if you just want to skip all the way to the right,
The red, is that what you're telling
the
us?
red, okay. And I'm sure you listened and are hoping and desire to run the supplemental levy again in August, but the board will work through that in the next couple weeks when we go to our budget hearing.
So that is still an option.
It is still an option, we have about $1 million still to cut.
We've got it down, we've cut 1.3 million or 5 out. We still have almost right at 1 million.
But there's not any more fat to cut, so it's not gonna be.
It's gonna go deep a little bit. We're trying to anticipate like what tax receivables will have it overlap and we can still get a little bit of that. So we are still working on it. These are not,
Is there any funds from the federal government still waiting on coming? Like CARES or?
well, yes, so let's talk about that. So right now, it's 80% of our Title I application, right? We've estimated right around 240. Okay. And we haven't factored that into here because for one,
You don't know.
we haven't got it. And with all the other stimulus stuff out there, I really don't want to trust that we'll get it until we see it. But
That
that
was
was
250.
under 250. It's between 230 and 240,000. It almost replaces the 245,000 we were cut this year. So we were cut over 100,000. The number on the second column, so the first one, 1920 is how we started the year. Or actually, it was based on our staffing and ADA as of February of 2020. The next column is after they pulled out our 1%. And so you can see we went down about 102,000 in general fund and another 145,000 in technology fund, state technology. And then our anticipated revenues for 2021, less the 5% pullback. And that honestly is hoping that they don't take more. So as of right now, the plan is that July 1, the government will announce a 5% pullback. As we go on through the year, and with the legislature, depending on tax receipts and such, they could actually hold back additional. So the top shows our general fund state funding, and then I've added in what our local was less that supplemental levy. So, we just have to be careful and moving forward. Our enrollment right now is down. We're down 5 support units based on anticipated, and the principals have been calling every parent, are you coming back? What are we doing? So we want to be really careful that we don't over budget our revenues, obviously, and have kids not show up, which is the big mystery of the reopening plan. So in trying to, the budget, we're trying to anticipate our ability to provide online at some level. So
As we
those
get
are
to
the
real enrollments, you mentioned that we're down based on disciplinary calls. And
Mhm.
is there a way to estimate how many are coming in those subdivisions and people reviewing this?
It's really, because you see a lot of growth and a lot of new construction, but the city of Middleton is telling us that about 80% of those are retirees or single, no children. They're really marketed that in this area, but we also know, another year out or 2 years out, there's a couple lower level subdivisions that plats are approved that are closer to in town that will draw more families. But that probably won't happen for fall. If all of a sudden we get a big push, at the end, we can do with the emergency levy, right? If you all of a sudden have a big bubble of kids, then we could in fact levy some, but not if it's down. And that's where it hurts us the most, right? So, we'll be really working and trying to identify counts as we, go forward. Our schedule is to have our budget hearing on the 29th of June. And then, we have 14 days to adopt it either there. The deadline for the supplemental levy is July 7th. We have to notify, July 6th, we have to notify the county of ballot language. Then the election is the 25th, and we don't know if that's going to be absentee or if it's going to be in person. We have to certify to the county for tax levy within that first week or so of September. We get a little bit of an extension in there. So, if we'll have to do our budget based on this, and then if we were to pass or decide to run the supplemental and it passed, we would do an amended budget and add things specifically back into the budget. So, this time around, because we've done all this work, we will be able to tell the public specifically what will be cut. What has been cut, what will be cut by the time we have a balanced budget to go to committee. So in that sense, I think it will be easier to educate the public and really share with them what the impact will be of not passing it again. Will that make it pass? And it's important for the board to look at the community and make that decision. It's not just, there's a lot involved with that decision. So
I just heard the board meeting too, what the things that what they have already cut, and then now the stuff that's busing, athletics, after school programs, that's next on the list.
Possibly freezing hiring if anybody leaves, really being serious about replacing that person, regardless of who they are, without having some really deep conversation. So, it's just real. And we honestly, if you can bring any suggestions, we want to hear it. We've been meeting with principals, we've been meeting with, and 4 days been sitting in every one of them. Because we really do. So I want to make sure you have that.
What about the levy, like anything?
Yeah.
Well, we know that all of this ultimately goes back to our students.
And I was good, if we can't get them to school, or we can't get them home, you worry about all that, and then athletics, that was the only kids, that gets them through the day, right? To be able to play the sport, but and the financial impact, having to pay, it hurts all the families.
I have a question, Cheryl. So, did we save any money from having the schools shut down?
We did some. We won't know the total impact of that. We have a really big transportation bill that they, want us to pay the 50%, which our contract says we will, but we're waiting to find out if we're gonna get funding back from the state on it. Because transportation funding falls a year late. And so we need to understand what that will be. Like I said, with the cuts that we got on the 1%, we're hoping we can hold, right, by the money that we saved. But we also had additional expenses huge expenses in paper and postage and trying to make sure that the kids got their stuff. We had some technology expenses. We had some, overtime in the tech people and everybody really stepping up and helping. The instructional coaches or specialists were critical in that. Doing all of that didn't cost us additional and helping training and stuff like that. So I've really been able to put a true number to it. Once we get the final bills, we're still looking at some bills coming in. We can answer that closely. But
And then the other moving piece that we still don't have done is our opening plan, right? Like if we're required to make modifications to the schools, or if we're required to supply additional equipment or whatever, we already know that we have to do more laptops for one-on-one, that we have, we're bound to have to do that. So we won't know exactly what those costs are yet.
and with the sanitation requirements, we had huge increase in our supplies. Even though the kids weren't here, we had to sanitize and everything over and over as staff and kids came in. And so really, did we save a lot? because we got cut 1%, yeah, probably not, they're just holding on, you know, hopefully
Is
it'll go
our-
negative.
Is our fund balance, what percentage is that? Currently?
So we have a policy
Yes, 5%.
for 5%, right?
Mhm.
When we ended our year last year at 1.2 million, that's a little under 5%. And then we were budgeted this year to end the year with about 600,000, which would have been even half that. We've been okay, we're hoping to stay at about the 1.2. But that's what I'm trying to project right now, what additional expenses, what receivables do we have in taxes, what's it gonna look like? Because I may need to use some of it next year. Until the decision to run the levy, you know. So we're really targeting, we would love to be able to get up to a minimum of the 5%. Really, obviously from a business perspective, we'd like to be, I don't look at Chris when I say this, because I say, I just need 2 months operating at least, right? And she wants 3 to 4, which any business person you do. I mean, when you think that our payroll is about 2 million a month with benefits, or excuse me, $1.5 million or so, we spend about 2 million a month. You know, give or take a little. So we couldn't even make a payroll with our fund balance. Now, because of the way the state pays and we get our, you know, and we've had our tax collections, you know, we can cash flow for a few months. But we will still continue to receive a few tax receipts if we don't rerun, and that's where I'm trying to figure out how much of it's receivable, you know, and then we're gonna end up with a big gap. So if we don't run in the fall, our December receipts will be part of what's left for the 2020 year. And we're not gonna pick back up for the 2021 year. So if we decide to run in spring, it doesn't hit until that next year. We're gonna end up with, you know, a pretty big gap in there, even if we get it renewed. And the fear I have is if we don't run it, people do experience a tax reduction on their property tax. Then you come back and try to rerun it, then you're offering them an increase. Your percentage of positive votes might be less, right? Because right now, we're just keeping, we actually offered them, we were able to decrease the bond, we were actually offering a decrease. And we have to meet with the financial advisors on stuff on what we can afford to do with the bond money, because the state may, you know, they supplement us on interest through the bond equalization levy. If they don't have the receipts, they may not be able to do it, so we can't lower the bond here. So it really is, we probably wouldn't want to lower the bond, because then I may have to increase it the next year. So I'd rather keep it as flat as we can, you know, and that's one of the motivations I'm trying to encourage to rerun the levy, is to keep that levy rate stable. Because if you offer them a decrease and then they get you, it's harder to sell. And then you heard our maintenance report last night too, of all the maintenance things required.
The big fat number at the end of that big, and we have is like $5 million in repairs, HVAC systems and like major, that doesn't include any of the track of the Buffalo High School. That's
Actually, it wasn't,
on the big one we got on stage 3.
it was in there, but it's like now it's 4 and 5, it's part of the 5.
Oh, because we just saw the 3, but yeah, so I mean, that's.
Hey, well,
So,
I just want to say this. As a PE teacher, I can go without my floor being refinished. I just want you guys to know that.
good, because this year it's not going to.
Okay, really? Because my custodians told me that they were coming in, that there was an outside agency that was gonna come in and refinish my floor, and I'm like,
But
I'm
not
good.
a refinish, but, so we have, sorry, Alana, we have an actual schedule now of which floors will be redone, which versus, you know, resurfaced like wax. So this district in the past, kind of their custodians stripped everybody.
Right.
We're not gonna do that. The professionals will come in and do what they need to just to do the waxing. And then we have a 5-year schedule of gym floors, so it'll be actually refinished, right, based on wear and tear. So your schools are not gonna, you know, have the level of repairs stripped down, because we need to free them up to do this other stuff.
Right.
But also,
Okay,
it
because-
doesn't need to be done every year. There's a
right,
cycle,
no, and I'm just like,
especially elementary, yeah.
yeah.
So you'll see them come in and they'll do some where they'll strip a top layer or whatever, but they're not gonna be taken down. We actually have a schedule this time for the next 5 years.
If it were just mom, I'll mop it. I'll mop my floor.
I appreciate
Let's
that.
bring up this flexibility
Careful with your ass right now, you know. Our schedule may get totally stripped back out next year, right? We're starting it with the hope that we can maintain it, and if the money's not there,
Right, well, we have a little machine, it's that you,
the buffer.
yeah, and it actually washes and dries it like all in one thing, and I'm just like, just that would be okay. I mean.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
So-
Blue's been really working on that, because that's one area we want to really cut, right? And just what we spent in wax materials was crazy last year,
Mhm.
but then you think about the man hours, and then we got clear down to the school opening and we weren't ready, so, you know, we need to outsource some of this stuff and schedule it out to lessen the financial impact.
Right.
Right, so, I don't know if we published that schedule, but we will. I mean, they spend a lot of time on, and that's what these people do, right? They're gonna do it a fraction of the time at the level that is necessary, not
Right,
all the way down to the delivery.
well, and I,
So,
actually, I've never had my lines repainted. So they've never actually like sanded it, they've just put a coat,
They can run down through the lacquer,
Mhm.
yeah.
so.
So, and I can look on it and tell you when it'll be, because I do think they have a plan, they've mapped
Okay,
it out.
yeah, I was like, well, that'll save money, don't do it.
Yeah.
We appreciate that.
So, yeah,
Yeah, in fact, yeah. Honestly, in 2021, we want to see much of any of that stuff done. We'll do what we can do.
well,
this year. We already have-
somebody's buzzing me right now, so they're probably like, yes, we want the floors done.
Well, and that, yeah, we'll be working on that, the priorities and stuff with the board of what we can do on it. That's what we have to do for safety issues versus.
Right, and I did hear that concern, that safety first, and we agree with that.
Yeah. And so before, really quick, I know we wanna wrap up, just the benefit increase, Blue Cross was 8.8% over medical. I've been using about 200,000. When I look at the existing enrollments, who's enrolled, and to kind of keep the plan the same, and here's copies if you want to see how we pay it.
Make it an increase.
I know, right?
That's what I asked.
What's that?
Make it an increase in a year like this.
Well, think of the COVID though, think of the hits they're
Yeah.
gonna have that experience. And so I'm sure they're hedging it. We actually expected double digits, so when it came at 8.8. The problem is, it really does add up to $180,000, 179. If we kind of keep it the same, because they've offered us a few tweaks, increased deductibles, changed prescription, it makes really small, like, small impact. So this is what we're talking about, either pushing it, so it's on the standard plan, it's $43.50 a month on the PPO plan, it's $41.30 on the HSA plan a month. So if you just kind of keep that out there, the cost to an employee or to the district, it adds up to $179,046, depending on how many, employees we have. That's the current enrollment.
What was it, 40%?
$43.50 on the standard plan. Goes from $494.70 a month to $538.20.
That's right here on this classified benefits.
Okay.
Yeah. And then from $469.55 on the HSA to $510.85. But currently, the district pays the same because we're paying someone the difference between the two plans, either as compensation or we're allowing you to apply it to independent coverages. So the district right now is paying $494.70 per month for every employee on benefits or medical. Dental, the standard plan did not increase, but Willamette, which is the Blue Cross, POS, here it's referred to as Blue Connect, Dental Blue Connect. That one did go up a little bit. 82 cents a month per employee. Vision stayed the same, which employees pay 100% of their own vision, and the dental stayed the same. So if you wanted to take that and then we can address it, the next one, at least it kind of tells you where we are.
And this is staying in the pool, right?
Yeah, and Kirk did ask me last night too about that. So Gallagher is the representative for the pool, but we also have an agreement with them as to work with us as a broker right now for nothing, to help us evaluate next year. Because, a lot of us districts in the valley are really struggling with this, right? And with the pool, you get somewhat captive because we don't know what our district's experience history is. We don't know if we're a big user or a low user. All we know is the pool as a whole. And so if you go out or you go get competitive bids, then they have to base it on unknown information. They're gonna take it just on our ages and all that. So they won't know our medical histories. So usually they can match it or they can buy it. They'll give you a good rate. And then next year, I think with them, it ended up with a 23 or 27% increase the second year. So in talking with Josh Sears, we're wondering if we couldn't partner with other districts, right? We couldn't figure out small things. And Regions Blue Shield is hoping to compete better with the pool. There's just some other options that are coming up down the year. So I think we want to be a little more aggressive about it next year, early in the year, to look at our options and get some competitive stuff, or really look at doing something different. Because it's just such a big part of the cost. And right now, if there's, we're looking at deficits, there's not money to give raises, or there's not decision to do that, and then you make them pay more, they go backwards. I mean, everybody gets hit in different levels. So I think we as a district will partner, and I know Caldwell's really concerned about it, Buchanan and Nampa. Everybody's kind of looking at this. Boise, they have and Moscow has the same sort of thing, where they have been with Regents for a lot of years, and
Right.
they have a shared pool, right, where then they can use some of the reserves to buy down the increase, and so they just have a lot more input into it. So, I'm like, well, can we join Boise?
That's what all of our teachers say that. Why can't we just do what Boise did?
Yeah. Moscow, the same thing, I'm talking about, what? How do you get it down to Fort Valley, where they're part of Blue Cross outside of the pool? And of course, the pool went nuts on Blue Cross, so that part won't be allowed to happen again, because I get asked about that. So, maybe we put together a benefits group that can start these conversations, and sure, but we're really not in a position, really, there's no way. We can't risk, if we were to leave the pool with the financial situation that we have, we just couldn't risk getting a 20-25% increase. So right now, we just need to try to toe the line. We can tweak benefits a little bit to reduce some costs, but it's gonna decide how receptive we are to it, right? By increasing our deductible or adding a deductible to prescriptions. I don't know, I think this group, Middleton, because Darren's on the board of the pool, and so this group has a lot of history with the pool. But maybe we need to change that a little bit and be more willing to look at other options.
Did the state, give any money for, what was the insurance? Glenn, you had asked that question about.
Did the state provide any extra money for insurance costs? They have.
No, in fact,
They're
you
not
notice they
providing-
reduced it as part of our entitlement. What they had done in prior years was to add,
Right.
Yeah, they have it.
well, they reduced our entitlement, by
21,000 is right there.
Yeah. So, and there's been some talk about allowing school districts to participate in the state of Idaho plan, which is actually really a pretty expensive plan, but it's very, very good coverage for employees. So there's been a separate legislative committee looking at that. And I think that pretty well got stalled out this year. And so, they just contribute X amount the state does, when they calculate our salary and apportionment, then they take the PERSI requirement and FICA and Medicare, and they do give us that to the amount that they reimburse us. But they don't give us anything dedicated toward benefits. It's part of that entitlement total of our support payments. You'll see that on the top of that spreadsheet that I gave you, but
Well, and that was, we had that actually in a policy. I don't know if we still have that, it might be an old one, but, and it was a committee that we needed to form, and I thought at one time it was our negotiated agreement, but I don't know. But it was that we form a committee and we looked at different possibilities, and we may have talked to Darren about this last year. But we look at different possibilities and going around, and we talked about this last year, and it was supposed to happen this year, where the committee or members of the committee go to each building and educate the staff.
We did talk about that,
Okay, I'm not.
about the telemedicine and the different things that were available
Yeah,
to
so-
their
oh, I
insurance.
guess we raised this up. We are looking to have, Lori is really supportive of doing and with Gallagher, is to ask these vendors, we'll monitor this stuff in just a second. Of actually having a benefits fair or open enrollment session as part of our work days when you just come back, so that you have those times. What do you have available? This is what
You get counseling there, you get so many free sessions and all that.
Yeah, to make sure that people are aware of the benefits that they do have with their policies, right? And then as we look at making changes, we can use that to educate the staff.
Okay.
Right now, we have American Fidelity as our voluntary provider. I don't know about you guys, but we have a lot of problems with them. On billing, we have problems with coverage, we have stuff. We would like to change. Josh, through Gallagher, have identified dramatic price differences that we can offer better coverage, like on those critical care, hospital, additional accident, all voluntary, to switch to Guardian. That's not part of the negotiated agreement, but I wanted to make sure you guys knew that. And as part of it, we will start communicating to employees through the summer. They will be part of a benefit rollout in the fall, because you'll have that opportunity. If you don't want to change anything, it'll just roll and you'll save money. But if you want to add additional, you want to cancel, or you just really want to stay with American Fidelity, you can, but you have to do a direct debit. It won't be payroll deduction.
So what happens to like whole life insurance policy? Yeah.
You can keep those. And I would recommend you do that if you have.
Yeah, because if you switch over, it's.
Right. Yeah, you just keep those and they'll do a direct debit instead of out of your paycheck. And there's not very many. We looked at how many people would be affected by that, and there were very few. But all those will stay in place. And if you have, any kind of annuity or anything with them, those would all stay in place. So that'll be worked out and addressed individually with employees. But in doing the comparison of, even on the short-term, long-term disability, there's other options. There's, we'll keep our standard life term policy that stays, the one the district provides for. The accident, critical cancer care, those, almost every single one of them have a lower monthly premium, especially for certain age bands. Some of us are in that age bands. So I don't think there was one where it was worse coverage. It was better, maybe a little different, but the premiums were less. So it seems like a really easy decision to switch, and the coverage for the management of those policies is better.
And that was Guardian?
Guardian. So, employees we'll start sending stuff out so that they know this. They'll work with us to send stuff to homes through email. And then we want to set a time for them to be, either just set up at the annex or something where people can come prior to contract days, or as part of the initial days back, to make sure that people have times available where they can meet with the agents and make changes or discuss what they have, as well as have Blue Cross here. We are kind of looking at Delta Dental. It doesn't sound like that's cost-wise will be a big, difference between the Blue Cross, but if it is, we would want to look at that. We'll probably have that before we meet again. Luana's still available. They'll come in, they'll offer sessions. Blue Cross will offer dental where they give out, I mean, most districts have some sort of a wellness benefit there, and we can even tie it where you can have your blood work done, you can have body mass index. I mean, we can take it to the extent we want. And I know there's a wellness benefit committee, but I don't think a lot was done with it this year. So that may be the mechanism to shop rates for next year too, is to work.
Right.
And then they can help with the benefit fair or wellness fair
Right.
too.
And I know Kelly Stoffer, she was talking to me about a wellness, having, a wellness fair like we've done in the past, where we had our blood work done and,
Has that been done at the beginning of the school year normally?
when was that? Was it the beginning?
It's been a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think at Caldwell, we ended up doing one in like October, and got that much better participation. Because the start of the year was so
Fit.
very. Yeah, do it right before Christmas.
Or right after.
Yeah. But that's something we definitely, I think, should
Right.
be working on. So,
And
anything else that we want?
did you have anything else to pass out as far as,
Do you want that other sheet from last night?
Well, we've already.
Oh, sure.
Yes,
please, yes. And I didn't finish on my class size and caseload. I still had a little bit, I have, sped and nurses that, brought concerns to me.
And I'm gonna have to slip out by 12:30.
Okay. I will hurry. Okay, I'll start with nurses. We have 2 RNs in our district now, and, I know we have a CNA. Haley Twitchell is at Purple Sage, and she is awesome. She has developed policy for the district and not asked for a dime. She is on it. She has, last year they did Stop the Bleed. One thing, she was disappointed that there weren't very many people that attended during, Teach Oktoberfest, that attended it. I was hoping maybe we could do, and I told her, I said, Haley, I feel bad, I attended your Stop the Bleed, but I don't know if I could pack a wound because I don't do it every day. And if you don't do it, you lose it. So if we could even have a refresher on the training, the safe school training, something like that. I was thinking about a refresher on, Stop the Bleed and other trainings that, we need to have for emergency medical situations. That would be one way, and of course, we're having more of those, I know, but it's, you either have to have a meeting or you have to do it that way. I don't know. I kind of would rather not have a meeting, I'd rather maybe do safe school training, I don't know. But I just wanted to, advocate for her. We're very, very extremely lucky to have her in our district. One thing, and I know this can't happen this year, but giving nurses their years of experience, is very important if we want to have and keep quality nurses in our district. And, like I said, I can't really, we can't do anything this year about it, but next year, possibly going forward, we can discuss that. Also, the, nursing supply budget is, they're giving roughly $2,600 for all 6 schools. And, she says she scrimps and scavenge supplies. The amount is not sufficient for their needs. She puts an email out asking parents for donations. Admin doesn't really like that, but it's, something she does, and those parents that can donate usually do. Also, nurses are required, to have 16 credits every 2 years. And if we could give some sort of PD for nurses, they have, even if we offered 8 credits per year or something, or offered 8 out of the 2 years, just something to help them, because they do have to, and, your husband, is he, yeah, you know about all that certification that they have to go through. If we can offer some sort of credits or CEUs for them. Also, I wanted to bring up, she never got her leadership stipend this year.
She will get it in June.
Oh, she will?
It was missed.
She will get it. Thank you. Okay, I just cannot say enough how lucky and fortunate we are to have Haley in our district. And so, that's great. She last year brought some concerns to, district personnel, and, was told that they would bring things up in negotiation on the district side, and nothing was ever brought. And so I just told her, you know what, we'll advocate for you. We know there's no money. She knows there's no money, but, just to do what we can do. Also, there's, the AED training, and let's see, where was that? Okay, so safety is always a priority, and so I feel that we need to collaborate with the fire chief and get everyone trained in CPR/first aid. Most other schools require this type of training. Our district does not. I think this will help ease some fears when it comes to having the possible chance of dealing with an emergency if a nurse is not present. Which, that's another thing. We basically need 2 more CNAs in our district, and it really is a liability issue that could happen if we don't have enough coverage. This should include bus staff and EAs, and it's $6 per person. She says, I think most all teachers can swing this expense if the district truly cannot help with this expense. That they need to allow for time away from the classroom to take this course, as it is a 6-hour course. And I know, and I brought this up at our PE trainings, I feel I really need to keep my certification up with CPR, just being a PE teacher. So, I know she's advocating for all of us to get that, and collaborating with the fire chief to get it as cheap as possible. So if, we could somehow do something there, and even on when we have the wellness fair or something.
Is $6, is that for CPR, or is that both for state and CPR?
CPR/first aid she has.
For $6 a person?
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah. So anyway, she's awesome. I love her. She does so much for our students and staff. Also, I wanted to just talk briefly about our SPED teachers. Leslie Elliott is in charge of our Learning Lab severe students at Purple Sage, and she knows the situation with funding and not having any money. But she said they need to keep their subscription to the unique learning system curriculum that they started this past school year. Starting the school year, I filled out a survey on all my students. They were all at a level 1 in the survey results. By the time we were closed down in March, 6 out of my 10 students had progressed to a level 2. They were making consistent gains in their learning and retaining the information. This is the first year in 8 years she's been here, I have been in the district that I had a curriculum. And it was amazing to see the growth in my students. Also, the second thing is she and Dana Ann, who's also a learning lab teacher at Purple Sage, they need to keep their number of staff. We currently have Katie Downs in pre-K who needs additional support in the coming year. We cannot educate students without support staff. Leslie says, I have 4 EAs, 2 of my staff are one-on-one, 1 for personal care and seizure care, and the other for behavior and safety of that student and others in my classroom. 2 are general EAs that run centers and support the other students in my classroom for safety and academics. The possibility of the perfect storm is real in my room. If one of my students has a seizure, it takes 2 staff. I have 2 students who are runners, and if they're left unattended, if they both run at the same time, that takes 2 staff members to go and take care of them. We have toilet or supervise all students in the restroom. If there is a student in the restroom and an adult with them, and the above happens, we do not have anyone with the other students in the room. If this occurs and no one is in the restroom, it leaves 1 adult in my room with 6 students. There are many scenarios that could occur and create safety concerns at all time in my classroom without enough coverage. Dana Ann will be starting the school year with about 15 students. She will need to keep her EA staff in order to maintain small groups within her classroom and meet the IEP expectations that have been set in the IEP, which we have to follow those guidelines. Katie Downs in our pre-K has struggled to keep her classroom running with only 2 EAs. She needs to have at least 3 or 4 EAs to support the number of students that they will have this coming school year. There are many safety concerns and concerns about health needs without enough support. I know that additional programs will not happen, but I do want them to know that there is a growing need for behavior support or a behavior program in our district. With the number of people moving into the area and our student population growing, we will need to be ready to accommodate those needs. We also will need to consider splitting Dana Ann's group into a mild program and a moderate program. Her numbers are growing very quickly and she will not be able to provide small group instruction if her numbers grow much more. We have quite a few students who would really benefit from a mild program, but really don't fit in the moderate classroom model we currently have. These are the highest needs I have for next year. I do understand the cuts have to be made, but I feel that what I am asking for is reasonable to support our students effectively and safely. Please feel free to contact me if you have any additional information or need any information. And then I have just a special education, not the learning lab, but I have something from a special education teacher in our district. And she, actually I have it written down, has some language that she suggests to be put in our negotiated agreement. Okay, there's one for you guys in there too. That you guys can read over and we can discuss this at our next meeting if you'd like. I don't know if we have time now, but
I think if we can save this one for next time, is that
Right.
okay with you guys?
Sure.
I did want to say on the curriculum piece, the unique learning system, we do have plans, to continue with that, so
Okay.
that's not going away.
Good.
And also, currently, there aren't, proposed cuts to sped. We did add a second, sped teacher over at Mill Creek for next year.
Okay.
To try to address some of those caseloads, and that's, that is an area we're really trying to protect as best we can.
Okay. And another person who, I mean, all of our SPED teachers do a fantastic, phenomenal job. And especially in Leslie's program, when I see her come to school with scratch marks on her arms, bite marks on her arms, she is there early, she stays there late, their paperwork load is huge. I just can't advocate enough for our SPED teachers. They are phenomenal and they, do such a great job with those students. So,
I have to say the same is true at the high school. I mean, teachers get head butted and scratched, closing down hallways because of outbursts, runners, teachers having to leave to go track down other kids, students being injured by, it's the same.
right, they're very unique educators and they deserve a lot of kudos for their job. Yeah. So. Is there anything, to help Katie for next year in the preschool?
If I remember correctly, I need to verify, but I think we have that position open this year with, not a lot of success filling it. I need to verify, but I think that's one of the ones we've had open the majority of the year. So it's not for lack of trying.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
we are working on it.
She also is an excellent, teacher.
Question. Since Lisa helps with some information, do I put her on as someone attending today, or how do I? Because like she's not on here as like attendees, but then she's in the notes. What do I do with Lisa?
Add additional resource.
Okay.
And
I might get a little name tag, additional resource.
I have some COVID language that I'll give you just to look at, for next time.
Thank you.
Do you have an extra one, Tam?
Oh, yeah, I do.
Yeah, that would be one. And as far as timing for another meeting, like I said, our hearing is the 29th. I'm gonna be refining, put her up to there, but it probably would be helpful for us to meet before then. Or,
The 29th is a Monday. What about towards the end of next week?
We can't do it next Friday.
Change it. That's what
Is that
So
right?
that's fine.
yeah, so it's already Wednesday.
Yeah, how about the 24th, Wednesday?
It's fine.
Wait,
Fine for me, fine for me.
my husband's gonna kill me. We're supposed to be, going on vacation the 24th and the 25th and 26th. You guys can do it the 23rd, that Tuesday?
We could do the 23rd.
Okay, that would be awesome.
I just need to be finished by 1:30 for an oral appointment at 2.
And I can't do 10 to 12. Can you do later in the afternoon? Is that an option?
Yeah, oh yeah, I can do. So sometime after 3. Usually takes about an hour.
Just adjust the words.
It'll be great.
That's not going to be touched, so I don't have to bill that. I'll make it work.
Should we set that for 3 to 5?
Okay, sure, maybe 3:15.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I have a call.
Okay.
15 on the 23rd.
I did have a teacher text a question, and it's not off the time I phoned it up. If we have to stay late for 5:04 meeting, we get paid for the time. Just throw that out there, we'll come back to it next time, I guess.
Later than contracted hours, right? Is that what they're referring to?
I don't think so, because we're getting out so much later now. Like,
But
there's
the
not,
thing is, if we only have 15 minutes, when are we going to do all this?
Well,
yeah,
I think on that 8 3/4 day, I think that was, don't quote me on this, but it seems like that was a half hour after school in the earlier release.
So
I need to go back and look at that, but it
So
was,
it'd be 4:15 now.
yeah. So,
That's when we do all the meetings.
okay.
It's after school, so that's.
So it shouldn't be an issue because meeting will be happening every day of each shift or 2. That works for me. I'll just.
okay, I just sent that invite for next week. Thanks, you guys. It's lovely to meet you. in
Thank
person.
you.
Yes.
That's much better.
Are these yours or these?